Right now, somewhere in your house, something is hiding, and it has been there longer than you think. You did not invite it, you did not do anything wrong, but tonight, when you get up for a glass of water and flip that kitchen light on, they scatter. And in that half second before your eyes adjust, you already know the feeling, that cold, sinking weight in your chest. Because this is not the first time. And if you keep doing what you have been doing, it will not be the last. Here is what most people do next. They call a professional. They spend $300, maybe $400. The guy in the uniform shows up, sprays under the cabinets, leaves a card and says, "Call us if you see more." 3 weeks later, you see more. So you call again, and the cycle repeats every quarter, every year, for as long as you own that house. But what if the real solution has been sitting in your medicine cabinet this entire time? What if it costs less than $1, requires no license, no contract, no chemicals you cannot pronounce, and was actually documented by the United States government over 80 years ago before quietly being removed from public circulation? Not banned, not disproven, just quietly retired at the exact moment a multi-billion-dollar industry decided it was better for business if you never found out. That is exactly what this video is about, and if you stay with me for the next 10 minutes, you are going to walk away with something that professional exterminators genuinely do not want you to have. The bottle we're talking about is hydrogen peroxide. 3% concentration, brown plastic bottle. You have almost certainly seen it in every pharmacy, every dollar store, every grocery aisle. It costs between 89 cents and $1.20. Most people keep it in the bathroom for cuts and scrapes, and that is it. But what most people do not know, what someone worked very hard to make sure you would not know, is that this molecule is one of the most effective, broadest spectrum pest control agents ever documented for household use. Here is how it works. Hydrogen peroxide, when it comes into contact with organic tissue, oxidizes it. That is the fizzing you see when it touches a wound. That same reaction, when applied correctly to insects, destroys them at the cellular level. It penetrates the thin exoskeleton of roaches, ants, and fleas, collapses the egg casings of bedbugs and moth larvae, and this part is genuinely fascinating. It chemically erases the pheromone trails that insects use to navigate your home. It does not just kill the pests you can see. It dismantles the invisible communication network keeping the colony alive inside your walls. If you have spotted even one roach during daylight hours, you need to understand something important. Roaches are nocturnal by nature. They avoid light and open spaces. When you see one in the open during the day, that is not a random occurrence. That is a sign the colony behind your walls, under your appliances, and inside your cabinet crevices has grown so large that the population is physically overflowing. Researchers have documented that for every single roach you see, there are somewhere between 20 and 50 you do not. You're not dealing with one roach. You are dealing with the visible edge of a colony. So, here's the approach. Mix 1 cup of 3% hydrogen peroxide with 1 cup of water and 1 teaspoon of plain dish soap in a spray bottle. The soap is critical. Without it, the peroxide beads on the roach's waxy outer surface and slides right off. With soap, the surface tension breaks, the peroxide contacts the spiracles, the tiny breathing pores along the insect's body, and the roach suffocates within minutes. Spray every roach you can see directly. Then spray along every seam, gap, and dark edge in your kitchen. The space behind the refrigerator, the underside of the sink basin, the hinge gap on the dishwasher door, the weep holes at the back of lower cabinets. Apply this after dark. Repeat every 3 nights for 2 full weeks. By the 9th night, the visible population collapses. By the 14th night, the egg cases will have released nymphs that walk through the residue you laid down and die before they reach food. 1 bottle, under $1, 1 completed life cycle, interrupted. Now ants. There is peer-reviewed research documenting that when ant colonies are infected with a parasitic fungus, individual ants actively seek out hydrogen peroxide as a form of self-medication. Healthy ants avoid it. But infected ants choose it deliberately because the oxidative effect reduces the fungal load in their bodies. The ants know the chemistry. And the pheromone trails ants use to navigate from the nest to your kitchen are made of organic compounds that oxidize on contact with peroxide. When you spray the march line with a diluted peroxide solution and wipe it clean, you do not just kill the ants currently on that trail. You delete the trail entirely. The scouts that come back the next morning find nothing. No signal, no map, no route to the food source. Observe the ant line first. Do not disturb it immediately. Watch where it enters your home and where it terminates. Then mix equal parts 3% peroxide and water in a spray bottle. Apply along the entire length of the visible trail from entry point to feeding location. Let it sit for 10 minutes. Wipe with a clean cloth. Spray again. Repeat once daily for 4 days. The colony does not die overnight, but it loses your home as a target completely. Bedbugs deserve a separate conversation because most of the advice circulating about them is expensive, wrong, and sometimes counterproductive. Throwing out a mattress does not eliminate bedbugs, They live in the frame, in the baseboard, in the gap between the wall and the floor. Heat treatment companies charge between $1,000 and $1,500 and produce inconsistent results because the insects migrate away from heat into cooler wall cavities. What actually works is a cycle-based approach timed to the insect's biology. Bedbug eggs hatch between 6 and 10 days after being laid. Apply a solution of 1 cup peroxide, 1 cup water, and a teaspoon of dish soap to every seam of the mattress, every joint in the frame, every baseboard within 6 feet of the bed, and then repeat that application every 4 days for 3 weeks. First application kills adults, second kills the nymphs from eggs you missed the first time. Third application eliminates the generation behind that. By day 21, the cycle has no surviving stage. That is the method. That is the math. Fleas operate on similar logic with a different geography. The adult fleas you see on your pet are approximately 5% of the total infestation. The other 95%, eggs, larvae, and pupae, are buried in carpet fibers, in the cracks between floorboards, in the upholstery. Vacuum aggressively first, then mist your carpet with a solution of 1 cup peroxide to 3 cups, water with a tablespoon of dish soap. Do not soak it. Focus on baseboards, pet sleeping areas, and furniture edges. Let it dry. Vacuum again 24 hours later. Repeat weekly for 4 weeks. The peroxide breaks down the chitin in flea larvae, the protein that forms the outer casing of the developing insect, and the larvae die before they can emerge as adults. Fungus gnats? The tiny hovering flies that colonize overwatered houseplants are almost embarrassingly simple to eliminate. Mix 1 part 3% peroxide to 4 parts water and use it to water your plants instead of plain water. It will fizz when it hits the soil. That is the peroxide destroying larvae and eggs in the top inch of the growing medium while simultaneously releasing oxygen that benefits the root system. Repeat every watering cycle for 2 weeks. The gnat population collapses. Now here's the part that connects everything and explains why most people have never heard any of this. In 1939, the United States Department of Agriculture published a document called Farmer's Bulletin Number 1825, titled Household Insects and Their Control. It was distributed free to any rural household that requested it, revised in 1947 and again in 1954. The bulletin described simple, accessible treatments for every common indoor pest, treatments that required no license, no professional application, and cost under $2 in 1950s currency. By the early 1970s, that bulletin was quietly retired from federal distribution. Not recalled, not scientifically refuted, just quietly discontinued. At precisely the same historical moment, the structural pest control industry was successfully lobbying state legislatures for mandatory licensing requirements that made it illegal for unlicensed individuals to apply commercial pesticides to homes. Hydrogen peroxide is not patentable. The molecule has been in the public domain since 1818. You cannot build a recurring revenue service business on something any homeowner can buy for $1 and apply in 15 minutes. So the industry built itself around compounds that are patentable, that require a licensed applicator, that solve the symptom rather than the system, because a solved system does not generate a renewal contract. That is not a theory, that is economics. Before you mix anything, one absolute safety rule. Never combine hydrogen peroxide with bleach, ammonia, or any chlorinated cleaning product. The chemical reactions produced are dangerous and the fumes are toxic. Everything else in your kitchen, dish soap, salt, baking soda, white vinegar, is safe to combine with peroxide. But anything from your laundry room or cleaning shelf stays completely separate. Here is the master formula. Mix 2 cups of 3% hydrogen peroxide, 1 cup of warm water, 1 tablespoon of unscented dish soap, 1 tablespoon of plain white table salt, and 15 drops of clove essential oil in a 1-quart spray bottle. If you want to take it further, add a teaspoon of cream of tartar. Shake before every use. Store it away from direct light. Replace the batch every 30 days because peroxide degrades over time. The peroxide oxidizes and kills. The water brings it to a concentration that cleans without damaging surfaces. The soap makes it penetrate instead of bead. The salt dehydrates soft-bodied insects and leaves a residual barrier that continues working after the peroxide has evaporated, extending your protection from minutes to days. The clove oil contains eugenol, which the EPA classifies as minimum risk, but which is documented as a contact toxin to insects. The cream of tartar stabilizes the solution and helps the salt dry evenly. This formula costs under $2 to make. A quart of commercial insecticide treating the same area costs between $12 and $35, works for 1 application, and leaves residues you cannot see or smell. Apply it directly to any visible pest and let it sit for 15 minutes before wiping. Apply it weekly along every entry point, baseboard, threshold, and pipe penetration for the first month, then once a month for maintenance. For hidden voids where colonies actually live, soak a cotton ball in the formula, place it inside the void, and leave it. The clove vapor and residual salt continue working for up to a week in spaces you cannot spray. The knowledge existed. It was documented by your own government. It was practiced by communities who never stopped using it because they never had a reason to abandon what worked. And it was quietly removed from circulation at the precise moment it became inconvenient for an industry that needed you to believe pest control required a professional. You now have everything you need. One bottle, one formula. This weekend, walk through your home and spray the dryer vent gap, the threshold of every exterior door, the seams under your kitchen sink, the base of every appliance, and the baseboards in every room where you have seen activity. Drop a comment right now and tell me what pest made you click this video tonight. The pest that comes up most in the comments is the one I build the next full video around. And share this with one person you know who is still paying a quarterly contract. Because the moment they see what is in that brown bottle, the contract ends. Subscribe and stay with this channel because what we do here is recover knowledge that was made inconvenient, one buried truth at a time. You did not lose this knowledge because it stopped working. You lost it because someone else's profit depended on you never finding out. Now you know, and that changes everything.